Hello and welcome to ZEST India Tea Talkers, and today is a very special day and we have one of the best human resource person with us, and he's very special to me, and we have been known to each other for quite some times, and we have been working also for the last almost 2.5 years. And over the years we have found out that, I have personally found out that it's human resource is not just about managing people, it's beyond that. You know, how you connect with your employees, how you connect with your people in a very psychological manner. So while speaking and interacting with him for quite some time, I have found out that he has taken human resource to the next level, where he has only focused on value orientation of people, not only in his companies but in his real life as well. So let me have the pleasure to introduce all of you with Mr. Shubhamoy Bhattacharya. Mr. Bhattacharya, thank you and welcome to our Tea Talkers, and it is always special to interact with you. Before we go ahead, I just wanted to understand, like, over your 20 years of human resource experience, what are the challenges that you have faced till date, and how you thought that this, what are the solutions that you have thought to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Shovik, for thinking me appropriate to be with you.
It's always a pleasure, sir. It's always a pleasure.
And, yeah, I appreciate your initiative, because the day I met you in my professional life, I thought that there's a young person, dynamism, trying to do something on his own.
Thank you.
I've always admired these type of people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And see, as for your questions concerned, because HR, to be very honest, I never thought that I will be an HR professional. You know, I had an engineering background and trying to get a job, and I got a job, but you know, that youth in us, some of my friends, we suddenly thought of leaving, we'll quit the job and start a company of our own. So I started, to be very honest, my endeavors was with an entrepreneurship experience, and that was a 5-year tenure. And you know, then what happened is, you know, incidentally I came across a monk. Okay,
oh,
yeah. I came across a monk, and incidentally I was attending an executive development program of the Coal India Limited, you know, Eastern Coalfields Limited. One of my brother-in-law was a manager there. So it was a Sunday, and I just participated in one mind-stilling exercise which was conducted by that monk, Swamiji. And you know, that was the first orientation that, you know, whenever you're talking of human resource development, I mean, there are certain things which the external, the way you behave is absolutely okay, but some software which you require, which will tune your inner self, right? So I was exposed to that sort of orientation, and on the concept of value orientation.
Okay.
So that was the initiation, I will tell you. And then I, you know, from 94 to 99, I got in touch with that organization, and it was very interesting that you're meeting students, you're meeting teachers, you're meeting corporate executives and general people. The concept is value orientation for self-empowerment and self-management.
Okay.
Right. So that's the concept. So when I came into corporate, and I'm trying to, because when I started learning human resource, the theories, and you know, the corporate, the boss, the management, they want you to execute, right? And deliverables, you talk it in terms of professional code of conduct, that you have to deliver, right? Now, when I was exposed to that, what I felt is that the challenge, since you have asked of challenge is, because ultimately you are given a task, you have to complete in time, and those, whatever you do should be measurable, and that should have an effect in the ultimate organizational goal, right? Now here, the thing which I found is that the individual, the employee who has been given a task, he knows, maybe the theory, nobody is perfect, right? And everybody is learning in his due course of time. But that individual orientation, his or her, the way she was brought up, the educational background, the value system in him or her was affecting his day-to-day activities. So when I came to know about this value orientation concept, I found that unfortunately the employees are not oriented towards, trying to organize yourself, the managing the self, which is very important. And that was the most challenge. I mean, I believe that it's still a challenge. Personally, you, me, we all are facing the challenging of managing self, right? So once the self-management, you have mastered that, it's very difficult. I don't think it, in one life it is possible, right? So the managing self. So once you're focusing on that, that requires time. You have to give time to yourself. There are a lot of learning, So when you're talking of skill development, you have to give time, right? So managing self, here not only skill, there is a very important component that is, then the term comes is values.
Mr. Bhattacharya, I would like to ask you something right now. So, since you are saying that managing self is interrelated with values, and do you think this only develops once a person joins a corporate, or it's his upbringing from the day he starts realizing about his life, he starts understanding about his family, his friends, his education and everything. So it starts from that day, or is it from the day he joins a corporate, he understands the corporate culture? So what is it exactly like?
No, it starts from the very childhood. Right, the education, the parent, the influence of his family, the genetics, the environment, ecology, education, religious beliefs.
So is there any mismatch? Like suppose a person who's brought up in a very a family where it's very challenging to earn, to have food every day, and this person through his academics he's very good, he joins a very good corporate house, his academic career has been very good. So once he joins into a corporate and he comes from a poor background, so there's a mismatch. How do you think, as a human resource personnel and working in a human resource department, how do you think these people can be nurtured, like getting them into the corporate world, because it's both sides of a coin, his upbringing and the corporate world that he is now. So do you think that value orientation plays a very important role in this kind of a scenario?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Shovik, but I would like to tell you something, because once you're talking of value orientation, then we need to know actually how do you go about values, what are the values, how do you define values, because defining this value orientation is very important, because values comes into play while we have to take decisions. Right. The decision making process, the values comes into play, right? I have to take a decision. So I'm acting, and before I taken in action, I decide that I will do this. So while I'm taking this decision, there are certain factors which are influencing my decision making process. So values comes into play. Values basically is the driving force, right? Now, when you're talking of the example which you gave just now, that a person who because of his socio-economic condition, he has, after completing his education, he got into a corporate. Now, what is how do I match? Now, the basic idea is, when a person is employed, now the organization should know rather, that whom I am taking, what is my expectation from this particular position, and that need to be related to my organization goals. Now, if you're hiring a person, you need to know how that particular individual, the entire value system would be, and that's the reason why we interviewed. During the interview process, there are a lot of process. We try to judge whether this particular individual will match my organizational requirement or not. But presently, what is happening is, there are options, and just completing a management course or a normal engineering course, whatever course, you don't become suitable for a corporate. So corporate has certain other requirements. So you need to. So at present, maybe work is going on so that, but the corporate has a responsibility of identifying the right people and then training them, orienting them towards the organizational requirement. But I am talking about value orientation right from the school age, right from the education. But what is happening is that within the inner environment is totally neglected nowadays. We are talking about skill development, only skills, develop your skills, and you will earn this much and because of your skills. But ultimately, values plays a very important role while you are trying to deliver something. If there is a mismatch, the value system is still not disturbed. You don't know what is your role, what is ultimately you're looking for.
Okay.
Young generation, I believe, if a person, because our system is rejection, we are eliminating, we are only identifying people who have good retention capacities, who have scored good marks, right? And we are taking them. So most of the people are left out because you have not performed well. Now, our education system is not working on the development, on the holistic development of an individual.
Right.
So maybe value orientation, if you define in this way, is, I have an objective, right? I know what are my shortcomings, because as an individual, if you ask me, you know your shortcomings, right? Now, do you have those leaders? Do you have those educators who will hold your hand and guide you and will help you to prioritize, to identify the best values which will influence your value system, and in the process will help you take the right decision at the right time? This is not happening.
Okay.
We are confused. We don't know. And what is happening, we want result instantly, immediately. When we're talking of value orientation, it takes time. It's a process. It starts from the school days. You know what you have to do. If you are learning mathematics, you start from class 2, from addition, subtraction, then gradually you go up. So when you're talking of value orientation, you're trying to develop yourself. It will never happen only in a corporate for a 2 days program or a 3 days program. It's a long-term process. It starts from the school days, education. So I believe value orientation is a long-term process, and values for value's sake. It's not that only a theoretical pursuits you have, this is a concept, okay fine. When you're trying to apply, you see, the willpower, you know this is not right, but you're yielding to the pressures.
Right.
So ultimately, as an individual, I know this is wrong, but I'm doing it. So what is the result? Frustrations.
Correct.
So I believe that value orientation is touching the inner part of myself. Are we working on that? Even the corporate, even the education systems, or we are focusing only on skill development, skill development, skill development.
Right. So do you think there is a conflict, like when you are working in an organization, so there are people on both sides. There are people who are looking up to an HR personnel so that their personal interests are being taken care, and the other side, it's your management, like who just needs the work to be done, who just needs the target to be fulfilled and generate revenue for the company. So do you think standing in the middle, in between, like keeping your employees happy as well as keeping your management happy at the same time, so do you think that value orientation is taking a back seat somewhere in today's world?
In terms of defining value orientation, it's a very good question. How should I answer this? When you're talking of value orientation, as an employer, I have certain values, right? And I prefer those values. And accordingly, I act. I am deciding the entire strategies, the decision making process are based on those values.
Okay.
And accordingly the actions are taking place. And action means results, and you see that. When you're talking of corporates who are strong, who has strong value system, they cannot ignore employee motivation, employee morale, if you're really talking in terms of business. So when business is only the focus, then the value drive is that. When you have a holistic approach, that only because it's the only human being, yet we are not talking about anything, it's a being. It's not only resource, human being. So being and becoming is a very important component of a human being, right? You're not just if you define as human resource only, then you will be treating as it's a computer or a laptop or a machine and a human resource.
Right.
But we are not only resource, we are human being. So there's an emotional connect. So all these things, holistic way of looking into organizations, I believe there are very few organizations who are focusing on this. And in the long run, I think those organizations who has worked on this, we are serious on the management, the leadership, who are really serious in holistic thinking, they cannot ignore the human component. Right? Only focus on business, only short-term goal. I don't think in the long run it works.
And humans are the most important assets of any business. Like
Definitely, we always focus on, and to be very honest, when any organization which is starting, at times the human resource department is it's not very when you become when a turnover reaches a top line, bottom line, your balance, then you think, okay, I should be having a human resource department. Yes. Why not from since the inception? Because that is very important. Now we believe that the leaders are individually human resource managers, but ultimately it is not happening. Right. So if the department helps their actual human resource managers, then I don't think you require a HR department. Right. But unfortunately it is not. So it requires a different orientation, it requires a different education and a value system. That needs, I believe that, there are concepts like, we have a CEO, instead of there should be a CTO, the Chief Transformation Officers, who would transform the individual, who would inspire. So when you're talking of organization, how can I have, how can I neglect this concept that I have to transform an individual? I have to, and I believe that when my employees are happy, they will deliver.
Correct.
This is a basic concept.
Absolutely.
And definitely there should not be any compromise with business goals. That is because ultimately if I do business, I will be sustaining myself and then I'll take care of my human being. So it's all interrelated, right? But at times, when business becomes more focused, at times the human part is being neglected. That hurts me at times.
There's a different side of Mr. Bhattacharjee as well. He's an NGO activist, and he has been closely associated with an NGO called the Institute of Value Orientation and Environmental Education. So he has been closely associated with this NGO where they have been working on value orientation, keeping in mind the education which has been given by Swami Vivekananda, and on his principles and education they have been working for quite some times. So going back to you, Mr. Bhattacharjee, if you can just brief about Vivekananda Nidhi and how do you work out there and what are the objective of this organization?
Yeah, the main objective is to make our younger generation be aware of the values and the concept of value orientation. See, when you are talking of values and value orientation, what we are trying to do is, we have developed or designed a specific curriculum which those are meant mainly for students. We prefer students from class 9 onwards, and for female girl students it could be class 8 also. And at our Srirampur campus we prefer a residential program where students will come, stay there, totally out from the society. Okay. No newspaper, no mobile phones, no televisions. And on these days, we'll be talking on values, Indian ethos, conflict resolution, and the most important part is, students administering themselves with the concept of the democratic values. In democracy, India has been the largest democracy of the world, and at times we intellectuals, we feel that democracy is not working. But I believe that in democracy the most important value is I am sending a person who is representing me, right? So anybody who represents me is a part of myself, right? So the concept of oneness is ingrained in the concept of democracy.
Right.
And an Indian ethos says that service and renunciation. And when you're talking of sustainable development, now is a very important part nowadays. Worldwide, we are talking of sustainable development. Even in sustainable development, in the resolutions, they say that not having more, being more. So, acquisition of wealth, consumption of more energy, this reflects that you are developed, right?
Right.
But sustainable development says less energy intensive, sharing, feeling, thinking of the future generation so that they will get their minimum needs, right? So think of the future also. So you can think of future when you're relating them with yourself. I can think of my son because I am related to my son. So son means, now sustainable development means you relate everyone, right? So that is the concept of oneness. In value orientation, the basic objective is, at least through my understanding, through my process of wherever I am, whatever I am doing, the ultimate objective is the realization that I am one with this universe. Even the ecological worldview, if you're talking of worldwide, the environmental movement which is we are talking about, there also in ecology, the deep ecology, the basic value drive is one with nature, right? In this context, when we have designed the curriculum, and the students of class 9, when they come and stay there, they are exposed. We don't say that do this, don't do this. We try to interact with them and place in front of them that these are the value options. Empower yourself, make your willpower reach that state that you have that strength to catch hold of those values, which will in the process make you a different human being who is confident. And believe me, I have seen students who have come up to us and said, "Sir, nobody has said this to us." So I believe that we are talking of skills, we are talking of subject, we are talking of careers, but there are certain things we need to address this young generation. So Vivekananda Nidhi is trying since 1983, which was founded by Swami Yuktananda. He was a monk of Ramakrishna order. I told you in my last discussion where I met him in a coalfield, Eastern Coalfield Limited.
Okay, so this was him.
This was him.
Okay.
So he was a founder, and he left this world in 1998. And see, whatever way we are all normal people, right? We are not monks, we are normal human beings. And he used to say that this is the concept of value orientation, will be taken forward by ordinary people only, right? Yes. And whoever, in whatever field they are, they could be a teacher, they could be a professor, they could be a business person, a housewife, a student, anywhere, wherever you are, the value orientation concepts makes you aware that you are one with this universe. Your action, your behavior will lead to that in such a way which will not ultimately create chaos.
Wow.
Right. So, and it starts with your day-to-day life. Then that's we say the eco-ethical lifestyle. Right. You the day-to-day upbringing, what you decide on every day, that is your value system. So, keeping in mind all these factors, we are just trying to be very honest, Shobhik, that such organizations are losing their significance nowadays. You know, to run an organization, it requires finance,
Yes.
lot of support, and we used to get grants from Government of India, but somehow those grants are.
So I would like to stop you for a while right now. So you said that such organizations are losing out values. Is it because of the modernization of science and globalization of us that things are going modernized, and somewhere these values are losing? Like as you said, like you invite students, they stay there for 2 nights or 3 nights, and it's a residential program. They have to leave their mobile phone back at home. I mean, we can't imagine such things nowadays. I mean, leaving our mobile phone because we feel paralyzed even for 5 minutes if my phone doesn't work. So with this kind of a scenario, and keeping their mobile phone back at home and staying aloof from the society, staying in a different world altogether for 2 nights or 3 nights, yes, definitely there will be some kind of a value addition at the end of the day. But is it because of this reason that financially you are in a challenging situation from the NGO's point of view?
Definitely, to run a voluntary organization is a big challenge nowadays. But Shobhik, the inspiration is our young generation. You know, when we come across the students, when they stay here, initially there are resistance. Why should I?
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, and you know, on the final day when they depart, they are so happy. And I remember there was a group of students from Kolkata College, female students. You know, the first day they were wondering how can they. And the last day when they were leaving, they said, sir, it was so nice that even without mobile, even with the television, we can spend these days. And you have given us a lot of tasks, and we were totally discussing on higher thoughts, and we were never bored. At times, you know. See, these are concepts which at times it goes above the head. But what we try to do is, you know, the entertaining component is that you are always analyzing yourself. Right? You're analyzing yourself could be entertaining. Entertainment has different dimension nowadays. So we are trying to give an alternative to the normal way of entertaining yourself. You start analyzing yourself, and we have a very important component is mind watching exercise. Right? It's a 22 and half an hour program where we watch our mind. You know, it's the most important thing is you know, anybody, a believer, a non-believer, whoever you are, it's like a psychic gym. You know, you jog, you go to a gym. This is a psychic gym. You know, you sit there for half an hour to 1 hour, and the ultimate practice is 22 and a half minutes or maximum half hour, and then you just watch your mind. And once this mind watching exercise becomes your integral part of your life, that gives an individual a strength. And this particular concept, this is not laid down by us. This is an Indian tradition. Our rishis, you know, they used to practice this, they have realized this, and it has worked. And we believe that in our education system, these are not incorporated. Maybe at times I feel that since this is an Indian tradition, Indian ethos, sometimes people are trying to give a religious coating to that. But we strongly believe that it is sacred.
I think it's beyond that.
Beyond that, right? And and when a student, after performing this particular exercise, and he or she comes out, he says, "Sir, we are." What we do is, after that exercise, they just write down, after that mind stirring exercise, what they have experienced on this 2 to 3 minutes. And in this 3 to 5 days, every day, in the morning and evening, they write it down. And on the last day, what we have observed is the thoughts are changing. In the first day, there were multiple thoughts. On the last day, that number of thoughts have reduced. So thought reduced means that you are leading towards the silence of mind. And Sri Aurobindo says, in this calm, the right knowledge comes. So when you're calm, when you're quiet, you can inquire within. So value orientation is inquiring within. We are trying to create an ambience, we are trying to create a support system where young people will come and they will analyze themselves. Decision they have to take. We will not tell that you do this, do that. The process will just empower themselves, and they know that they can prioritize. Value orientation is, these are the values which has led me to this state. I want to change this state, so I have to adopt certain other values. So this change, the shift, there is no erosion of values, there is shifting of values. You cannot say value has eroded. These are the values which are no more taken care of. We are not giving priority to this. These are the values, they are instrumental values. Eternal values, they don't change with time. Love, peace, honesty, this doesn't change with time, it is still there. Honesty, it is my value, then my behavior will be accordingly. Right. So when honesty becomes my value, so you will understand by my action that I have honored that value. Right. So if dishonesty has been my value drive, my action will be like this. It's very simple.
Absolutely.
So value orientation means, we call it disvalues, some call it negative values. These are the values for students. When we say, see, exams near, say no to television, no to more going out. So what we have to do? Say no. Now no means what you have to do is, I have to give time, right. Say yes to these. So you have to decide. So for that you have to develop your willpower. Willpower is mind watching. Once you start watching, your mind is silenced. So these, from behavioral science point of view, value orientation, the result is there is a change in your behavior. And your very near and dear one observes that yes, there is a change. It's not only intellectual pursuits, it's working within. If it is not worked within, you don't have any actions, right?
Right.
That is
and that reaction comes through the attitude.
Absolutely.
Of people, right? Absolutely. So it reflects through the attitude.
So value, attitude, behavior is a complex.
Right.
Value influences my attitude, it influences my behavior. So attitude, the attitudinal change. So attitudinal change will only take place when there is value orientation. Orientation means putting towards light. Light means, so anything which changes can be developed.
Correct.
So value changes with time. So these are certain values which I used to give priority. Now you are an entrepreneur, you have ZEST India, you have to develop this ZEST India, and for that your entire planning, your options, value options has changed. Prioritization of values has changed.
Yes.
You're no more you are a different Shovik now. So your daily routine is different. Correct. Your value drive is different. So there is value orientation taking place in you. So we want to focus on value orientation because ultimately an individual, you have to decide what I have to do, where I have to go. So your value drive will lead you towards that.
Okay.
This is value orientation.
Alright.
So what we are trying to do is that the most important thing is that never lose faith in yourself. You can do anything in this universe. Swami Vivekananda has quoted. Right. You are all powerful. You're potentially divine. So realize that divinity within. Value orientation is not this. And the ultimate goal is at least that feeling. Feeling is a dominant value. Feel for your fellow. Feel for your downgraded, people who are economically weak. Feel. And once you feel, the dominant value is that the idea is that you're one with the nature, the environment. So once you just think, Shovik, if I start my day in the morning and the value system, the value drive is that I am one with this universe, can I harm anybody?
No, I cannot.
I cannot. So if that is what we are trying to, the first thing is we would like to be like that. It's a process, Shovik. I don't know in this life whether I'll be able to do it. Maybe there will be a lot of life, what in Indian context we believe.
But the seed can be sowed, of course.
Yeah, that's what we are trying to do.
Yeah, right.
And I believe in the process, Vivekananda Nidhi, we have, Swami Yuktananda has given us this opportunity to create a platform where like-minded people will come, teachers, educators, corporates. And I believe once, he used to say that, Shubhamoy, this is not organization. Value orientation is applicable everywhere, in a domestic, in a home, in an institution. The concept. A teacher will start appreciating value orientation, and he will or she will become a better teacher. And scientist will become a different teacher, and businessman will become a different businessman, because value orientation has started taking place within. So you become a different. So there the real change will start taking place, I believe.
So thank you so much. These discussions are never ending, and value orientation is such a subject that it never ends. Like it's a process till the day we die. And I think it is always a pleasure to have Mr. Bhattacharya with us, and his words are so powerful. Like I'm feeling inspired at the end of the day today. And I think we should be calling him very shortly one day again, and we'll speak a lot about value orientation. Sir, thank you so much for being with us at Tea Talkers, and it is always a pleasure to have you on board. And I would look forward to meet you again and again. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.